Thank you for listening to Knocking Doors Down, brought to you by KDD Media Company.
The difference between being sober and being in recovery. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm sure you've seen them too. Those people are sober, but it's like, do you really want what they have? I mean, they sit in the same seat every night, spewing the same pages of the big book, drinking a gallon of coffee and having a half a dozen donuts at 8 o'clock at night and talking about how spiritual they are. And I'm sorry, but I don't want that. Yeah. So I would rather talk to the guy who's like struggling and working through it and getting through it sober. That's the person that I want to talk to and that I want to learn from. And, you know, life's going to throw its obstacles at you, but part of the self-esteem thing is ego turns hurdles into walls.
This is Knocking Doors Down, a podcast about ending the stigma around addiction and mental health issues. Your host, Jason, here, with background of alcoholism, some childhood trauma. My co-host over there, Uncle Mikey.
What is going on, people?
Hey, he's been busted a time or two.
Yeah, what are you going to do?
Struggles a little bit with some anxiety in other areas. But, hey, we're all about talking with people that take all of these matters and issues, openly talk about them, to destigmatize it, and well, that's what Knocking Doors Down is all about.
That's
pushing
right.
through. Our guest, Randy Havison. What a great frickin' dude, Mikey.
What a good fella.
Randy's got an interesting story. He actually came from a very affluent family that when he was a kid, his parents weren't well-to-do, actually moved from one side of the country to the other and started to do well financially, and that kind of impacted Randy's mental health, especially in the area of ego, which he gets into talking about how he fell into addiction, substance abuse, and subsequently, when he sought sobriety, has to do with a knife and sitting on the edge of a bed contemplating his life.
Yeah, no, and that, I was just going to say how, but I guess you guys will just have to find out.
That's right. So Randy's a great guy. Make sure to follow him on social media, see the amazing work that he's doing. We got those links, of course, in the bio and description of the podcast. And hey, thank you again for listening to Knocking Doors Down. Don't forget to subscribe to us on the Apple Podcast app. Leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Also on Spotify, the iHeart app, Google Podcast. We are everywhere that you can find podcasts. And of course, if you like the video form, like Uncle Mikey does,
I prefer the video. I need to see what I'm listening to.
I get you.
You know what I mean?
I get you. Go to our YouTube channel. Again, that link is in the description.
The Knocking Doors Down book shares all the history and inspiration behind the Carlos Vieira Foundation and how it all started. All proceeds from the book benefit the Carlos Vieira Foundation's Race to Be Drug-Free campaign. So what's that all about? Through the Race to Be Drug-Free campaign, Carlos Vieira Foundation raises awareness about drug abuse, donates to drug-free programs, and brings drug-free speakers into schools to educate youth. The Race to Be Drug-Free campaign's main program is the Gloves Not Drugs boxing program. This program is completely free for kids between the ages of 8 and 17 to learn discipline, strength, respect, camaraderie, and the art of boxing. The program was created to keep kids off the streets, out of gangs, and away from drugs. For more info and to get involved, check out carlosvierafoundation.org.
Randy Havison, man, thanks for joining us on Knocking Doors Down. Real pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, and it's an honor being here. I've seen your work. I'm a fan, and I think you guys do a great job, so I'm just honored to be here.
Awesome. We appreciate you so much. Hey, we were talking about bullshitting before we started. I think let's jump and start there.
Absolutely.
Going through your website, I've watched your TED Talk multiple times, which, people definitely look up Randy and watch. It's available on YouTube and his website. But you're talking about your book, which people can get through your website. Give us that URL real quick.
randyspeaks.com.
Yeah.
Nice and simple.
Yeah, smart. Well done, Randy. But you do a lot with self-esteem workshops, what you have available for free. But you're talking about your book that you want to turn into curriculum for schools. I think this is just a great way to jump into here with you because, boy, yeah, self-esteem, man. We really need to narrow in on what that is.
Yeah. And I love talking about it because it plays such a huge part in everybody's daily life. But I find that a lot of people are confused as to what self-esteem actually is. You know, we're raised with this notion that your self-esteem is based on a zip code or a label on your shirt or how many likes you have. but that actually has nothing to do with self-esteem whatsoever. Right. You know, I'm sure you guys have seen people who have everything that a person could want, you know, the good zip code and the money and the cars and all that, but they're miserable and they have no self-esteem whatsoever. But, you know, you've also met people who have what others would consider hardly anything, but they feel really good about themselves. They're confidence, and they have self-esteem. So what we're taught is that ego is all this outside stuff. And what I believe is that self-esteem is the inside stuff. So everything that we do either reinforces our ego or builds our self-esteem. So my work is based on helping people raise their self-esteem so they stop beating themselves up for mistakes that they've made or things that don't go well. You know, years ago, I had a business and it failed, and I thought my business failed. Oh my God, that means I'm a failure. And I came to realize that, no, that was the business that failed. I'm okay. Mm-hmm. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time, made some poor decisions, and that's what happens. But that's not a reflection of who I am. So that's what I want to teach people, is how to raise your self-esteem. Let go of all that bullshit that we're raised with, telling us how we're supposed to define ourselves when that's not who we are.
And I think it plays so much into what was interesting and appealing for us to talk with you about your story, because you were the kid. You came from an affluent home, you know, but what fascinated me is like, okay, then how does this guy, all this stuff, again, I kind of was similar. My parents were well-to-do, but at 24, you're sitting on a bed with a knife in your hand, contemplating, what's the right way to cut my wrist? Is it down? Is it to the left, to the right?
Yeah.
What was the process that got you there? Because talking to you now, it's like, this guy could have never have contemplated suicide, you know, but...
You know, it was exactly what I was talking about. You know, I had everything on the outside, but I was getting kicked out of college and I was getting fired from a job delivering pizza, and I was losing friends all over the place because people didn't want to be around me anymore, because I was all about, hey, look at me, look how cool I am, look at my great car, look at my great condo. I mean, aren't I awesome? But people are like, dude, no, you're a mess. So all of those outside things didn't matter anymore, because when I looked on the inside, I was dying. You know, I was doing cocaine and drinking and weed and mushrooms and all that stuff. And it was like, the more I used, I thought that was going to fill that hole inside of me. But what it actually did was it made the hole bigger. Yeah. So that's when I was sitting there with a knife in my hand, debating which wrist do I go for first. And then I thought, well, maybe I'll just slice open my throat instead. That'll be a lot quicker. And I looked in the mirror and went, what the hell are you doing? Oh my God, how did you get here? And all of a sudden it occurred to me, dude, you have a drug problem. You need help. And that's one of the things I want to reinforce with the whole self-esteem thing, is that, you know, we're taught to either just say no to drugs, but we talk about how to say no, but we don't teach people what to do if they have a problem. So I had no idea what to do. And this is back in 1984. So there were very few resources around, but I found a way to reach out for help. And, you know, the volunteer who answered the hotline that night, she saved my life. So, you know, here I am today as a result of asking for help, receiving the help, and along the way, finding some great mentors and people who could help me out.
Yeah. What do you think it was? Was there any occurrences with childhood that you think created that hole within you?
You know, I was affluent by the time I was in high school, college, but, you know, my parents had that all-American story where they started with absolutely nothing and moved to from Minnesota to California when I was 4 and my sister was 3. And I think my dad had $300 in his pocket and a beat-up Chevy and no job and no home, and just moved to California. And a couple lucky breaks and real hard work, he started doing really well for himself, investing in real estate in Los Angeles in the 60s. Didn't suck. Yeah. And things started to get better for him, and our houses started to get bigger. We went from public schools to private schools, got a car for my 16th birthday. But, you know, they were raised without money, so they didn't really know what to do with it and how to raise their kids with an appreciation of money and the things that bought us. And it was just kind of like, just go for it. So I think that's one of the reasons why cocaine was my drug of choice, because it was really easy to afford it. But there were no standards on how to manage money well for a teenager or a young adult.
So how was it brought in? Like, did you have friends that did it? Is it something you always wanted to try? You saw it one time, or you were influenced by an actor in a movie or a favorite musician? How did that come about?
Actually, the first time I did it was with a relative of mine. I went over to his house, and I had smoked weed with him a few times. And I went over and to his apartment, and he said, "Hey, I got something for you to try." I'm like, "What is it?" He said, "It's cocaine." I'm like, "Oh, no way, man.
Right.
I'm not doing that stuff. That's like hard drugs."
Right.
He said, "Randy, it's no big deal. It's just cocaine. It's not like you could become addicted to it or anything." Right? Because this is back in this is back in the 70s.
I mean, duh,
So
Randy.
back then, you could only become psychologically dependent on cocaine. You can't become addicted. And I could believe him. So I did my first line of cocaine. And, being highly ADD, I did cocaine, and that made me feel more normal than anything else ever did.
Right.
So while everyone else is all paranoid and tweaking, I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
So that's where my love of cocaine started. And after that, I was like, how can I get more?
Sure.
About how old were you then?
17.
Is that about what, Mikey, when you first
Oh,
started?
no. The first time I saw cocaine, I was probably 15 years old, and it scared the shit out of me and didn't want anything to do with it or go anywhere near it until I was about 19. Because like you said, and that's the perfect way to put it, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to it, weed, couple beers here and there, that's normal. We're kids. That's what we do. It's fine. But cocaine, that's like some next level shit, So when you hear it or see it, it's like, oh my gosh. Because the first time I saw it, I was like, this is exactly what my parents warned me about. This is happening. This situation right now, what's happening. And so I totally get what you're saying. And but even still, that's quite the young age to get going on it. And
back then it didn't seem like it though. Now I have a 16-year-old daughter, and I'm like, holy shit. I was like younger than you when I started smoking weed. And next year is when I started. I can't imagine her doing it, but she has a really good head on her shoulders. We talk about it a lot. I don't vilify it at all. But she might not, but we'll talk about it either way. But I can't imagine at her age doing this stuff. But back then, when you're 17, you think you know it all.
Oh, yeah.
You have all the answers for yourself, and people can't tell me what to do. So, it's that invincibility issue that's going on. And I had that too.
Yeah. Well, and definitely the time period, late 70s, 80s. I mean, Jesus, you went everywhere, and it was just, hey, we're out for all right, let's go. It's bananas.
Yeah.
Well, and not to mention, it's very normalized in Los Angeles. I used to live in Los Angeles, and it's like smoking a cigarette. Nobody really cares about coke over there. It's just so damn common. And it was a culture shock. But so I can imagine, it'd be the same back in the 60s. I wouldn't know. You could tell me, but it was just like, it wasn't that big of a
70s. 60s was a little before my time.
I'm sorry, 70s, 77. But it was like, it was not a big of a deal, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, it was kind of like, you want a cigarette? It's like, no, you got some coke? Oh, yeah.
Right.
No, that guy over there has some.
Right.
So, yeah, it was just everywhere. All of it was. This is like 75 to 79, and it was just everywhere.
More with Randy Havison coming up, including those random questions here on Knocking Doors Down. Stick around.
5150 is a lifestyle. We believe in pushing yourself, finding your passion, knowing your dreams and working hard, and always striving to make those dreams your reality. We believe life is too short to sit back and say, what if? Go after it, grab it, and make it happen. Being 5150 is committing to that long, hard road. That road you know is going to be tough, but the most rewarding. That's living the madness. That's 5150. If you're living the 5150 lifestyle, then celebrate by rocking the goods. So listen up, there's a special deal for listeners of Knocking Doors Down. Go to 5150ltm.com and enter code KDD20 and receive 20% off your purchase. That's 5150ltm.com.
You said something really interesting concerning your daughter and how you talk about it, not vilifying it. So to me, that's so encouraging. I know as a parent, I try to talk about with my kids that are verge of teenage years about my downfalls and the things that led me down them. So sounds to me like you're a man that doesn't only talk the talk, walks the walk, not just out there in society, but within his home. How do you approach those conversations, maybe for people that are listening that whether they had a struggle or not, but in going to talk to their kids, because education is the first step to prevention.
Right. And what I usually suggest, number one, talk to them, don't talk at them. Mm-hmm. And I like to talk about behaviors and consequences. And I would talk to my daughter about it. It's like, look, I went through this, and when I started, it was a lot of fun. And then all of a sudden it stopped being fun. And she actually experimented for a little while, and we found out about it, and we drug tested her one night, and it came back positive. And my wife's like freaking out. Oh my God, I can't believe you would do that. And I sat down with her and I said, I'm disappointed.
Sure.
And that was like, if I would have said I'm mad at you, it probably would have gone right over her head, but I'm really disappointed. And that got her.
Shit, that got me.
Like, I'm really sorry. And we just talked about it. Mm-hmm. I said, what was it like? She said, it was actually a lot of fun. I'm like, remember when I told you it can be a lot of fun, but you have to really be careful. And especially with my history, you got to be careful with it. And then she did it a couple more times, and she started to watch what it did to other people. Mm-hmm. And one time someone videoed her, and she watched it after, and she was like, oh my God, I don't want to be that person anymore. And she just stopped.
Yeah.
So she doesn't do it anymore. She doesn't want it. She loves hearing my stories. She's like, Dad, tell me a story about one time when you were up in Hollywood. And I was like, really? She was like, yeah, tell me about one of those. So she loves the stories, but it's like she's been through that now. And I didn't ground her, and I didn't, do any of that kind of, I did tell her, because I told her earlier, if you do drugs, you're waiting a year to get your driver's license. So you're not going to get it at 16. You're going to have to wait till 17. So when the drug test came back positive, I said, that now you're not getting your license for a year. She's like, oh my God, I forgot about that. It's like, yeah, I didn't. So it's
one of the side effects of drugs. You forget shit. Sorry.
Usually the important stuff too.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I had a job interview. Oh, I had to go to class. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I forgot about a whole year at one time. So.
Yeah. Oh, the blackouts. I didn't even know there was a name for that till I started going to meetings. And people are like, yeah, I was a blackout drinker. I'm like, what's that? Where you don't remember stuff during the night. It's like, oh, there's a word for that?
That's why you stay away
I didn't know that. Yeah, okay. I qualify.
Jägermeister. Every time
mine was tequila.
Oh, see, I'm half Mexican, so that just kind of ran in our blood,
Okay.
But Jaeger. But anyways, back to what.
And I got sober before Jägermeister came out, so I never.
Lucky you.
I don't know. Yeah.
Thank goodness. So
I want to keep it that way.
Hey, Randy, tell us a story about Hollywood. How can we resist?
I know we got to hear it now, man. Come on.
Oh, geez, there's so many. Well, there was a time that there was a place in Hollywood called Flippers.
Okay.
And it was a roller skating rink, and the band would play in the center of the roller rink, and everyone would skate around the band. And it was like $20 cover and another $20 to get the skates, and the drink prices were outrageous. So me and my buddy, we would go pregame. Before we would go there, we'd go to a local pizza place and say, hey, do you have any pizzas that no one picked up? And they say, yeah, we got one right there. It's like, can we give you $5 for it? They're like, yeah, sure. So we give them $5, we get the pizza, we'd go to the back of Flippers, and we'd say, hey, we have a pizza delivery for security. And they're like, okay, go on in. And we go in and go to the nearest security guy and go, hey, man, you hungry? You want some pizza? They're like, wow, thank you. And then we just get into Flippers.
Nice.
It was awesome. Yeah.
We get shithouse and accidentally roller skate into the band in the center island or anything.
Exactly. Well, there was that one time that I went there on Quaaludes, and I actually fell down at one point, and I put my hands down to brace myself, and I watched someone roll right over my fingers. And I looked at it and I went, that's probably going to really hurt tomorrow. And it did. It was nasty. Yeah, Quaaludes. I'm so glad they got rid of those things.
I was going to say, those are no more, right? Ludes?
No, they're not around anymore. They cause more damage than help.
Right.
Thank goodness.
Right.
So obviously the partying and everything and the excess is starting. And then early on when we were talking, I brought up the incident where you were there with the knife. 24 was about, if I'm accurate with that. So was
24.
that the holy shit wake up moment? I need help, and from there you sought help.
Yeah, after I called the hotline. It took me like 45 minutes to actually make that call and talk to someone, and she answered the phone, Be Sober Hotline, and I said, "Yeah, hi. I think I have a drug problem." And we talked for an hour and a half, and she told me, "Hey, man, I've been there. I've been clean for a year and a half now." And I was like, "A year and a half? Like in a row? Oh my God, that's amazing." And something inside of me said, if she can do it, I can do it. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, what do I do? And she told me about 12-step meetings. That was the main thing. And she told me, maybe you want to go to a treatment center. But I started looking into 12-step programs and all that. And I actually went to a treatment center and I said, do I need to come in here? He did the whole assessment and he said, you sound really motivated to get sober. Why don't you go to meetings? Here's the name of a counselor, a therapist who specializes in addiction. And if you relapse, come back in. I was like, all right. And so far I haven't relapsed, so I haven't had to go back in. So That day was the last day I did cocaine. And 11 days later, I had my last drink. So May 28th, 1984 is my sobriety date. So I've been clean now over 37 years.
Good for you, man.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. And have not looked back. It's like, I've had temptation. Sure. I've had the thoughts that have turned into obsession, and I've done that, but I've reached out to my support network every single time. And I learned really early on that there's no situation that life can throw at me that drinking or using wouldn't make worse. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember I went to a meeting one time and this woman was talking about how she relapsed because she had a house in Del Mar and the painters came and they painted her garage door the wrong color. And she just couldn't stand it and she drank. And I thought, what? That's a reason to drink? And then another guy that I know was playing with his kid and some friends in the front yard, and his 3 or 4-year-old kid rode his tricycle into the street and a car hit him and killed him.
Oh, shit.
Tragedy, horrible situation. And the guy stayed clean through that situation. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what? It doesn't matter if it's your kid getting hit or your garage door being painted the wrong color. It's whatever you tell yourself that you're going to buy into, and the addiction's going to want to turn itself on.
Right.
So there's nothing that can happen that justifies using.
Right.
So when shit would happen, I'd lose jobs. I'd flunk a class in college. I mean, stuff would happen in my life. And I will get through this. And I just did. And it passed. It's kind of like someone rolls over your fingers with roller skates. It's going to hurt for a while, but it will heal. It will get better. Mm-hmm. So it's like that with any situation that life throws at you. And a lot of my work on self-esteem is based on that concept that if you believe in yourself and those good things in you, things can happen around you, but they don't have to affect that core of who you are. So I started to build that pretty early without identifying it. And I learned the difference real early on in my recovery, the difference between being sober and being in recovery. Mm-hmm. I'm sure you've seen them too. Those people are sober, but it's like, do you really want what they have? I mean, they sit in the same seat every night, spewing the same pages of the big book, drinking a gallon of coffee and having a half a dozen donuts at 8:00 at night and talking about how spiritual they are. And I'm sorry, but I don't want that. Yeah. So I would rather talk to the guy who's like struggling and working through it and getting through it sober. That's the person that I want to talk to and that I want to learn from. And, life's going to throw its obstacles at you. But part of the self-esteem thing is ego turns hurdles into walls. But if you're high in self-esteem, the hurdles stay hurdles. We can get over a hurdle. But walls are much more difficult to get over. So that's what I teach people, how to keep life's obstacles as hurdles. And that's self-esteem.
Let's talk about the difference between self-esteem and ego in your work and what you've really learned. Because when you're talking about that person, the donuts, the coffee, kind of a flashback to me because I did have attempts relapses, attempt, relapse, and until I really started to change my looking at the guy in the mirror, nothing took place. And really, I didn't realize, I never thought I had an ego problem, but I did. And it was so fucking fragile, and still is to a certain extent.
Oh, absolutely. It is. And, I talk about the continuum of ego and self-esteem. Mm-hmm. And very few people in the history of man have attained pure self-esteem. We're talking people like Gandhi and Mother Teresa and Jesus and, people like that. On the other side, pure ego, very few people are pure ego either. All of us are somewhere on that continuum. Pure ego, well, there's one name that comes to mind. I hope this doesn't piss off any of your listeners, but I think Donald Trump
sure.
is like that. Pure ego never does anything without personal gain to it.
Sure.
And that's what pure ego is all about. So all of us fall somewhere in there. But what I talk about, when you start to awaken to this difference, it doesn't matter so much where you are on that continuum. What matters more is which direction you're pointed in. And are you doing things today to reinforce your ego, or are you doing things to build your self-esteem? So in my book and in my workshop, the whole thing is to give people a toolbox to build that self-esteem and let go of the ego, because it does you no good whatsoever. Ego just keeps us down. And you're a prime example that when you keep holding on to that ego, shit keeps happening.
Yeah.
But when you finally surrender, and there's a difference between surrender and giving up. Giving up is a thing of the ego where we feel humiliated. Surrender is, hey, this is not my deal anymore. I'm not able to do anything about it. So some of those differences, the difference between cocky and confident, that's ego versus self-esteem. Humiliated versus humbled. People high in ego are humiliated by things that happen in their lives. But if you have self-esteem, you're humbled. Wow, I really made a mistake there. I really blew it. What can I do to go make amends to anyone if I need to? But what can I do so that that doesn't happen again? Mm-hmm. So that's humility. Humiliation is, oh my God, what are people going to think? And that's one of the biggest parts of ego. That's like one of the biggest triggers. If you have the thought, what are people going to think? How are people going to react to this? That's an ego thought. Because it's really, how am I going to do with that? Does that sit well with me?
Sure.
That's the self-esteem part.
Yeah. With your work, obviously being a parent myself, how have you approached that not only with your children, but others that are coming up, those preteens and stuff like that? Because you said something that I remember being said in my own home, well, what are other people going to think? And it's, do you like it? Are you happy with it? Does it bring you joy? So how do you approach that, not just with, say, those in recovery, but, helping.
And that's a really tough thing to let go of. And it's funny, when I talked about in the whole social media thing, but not as much as she used to, because she hears me talking about this stuff all the time. It's funny. I will be in my bedroom doing a podcast, and her room is right across from mine. So she'll hear me doing the interview. So this stuff kind of sinks in, and she won't say to me, oh, Dad, I was really looking at how I can build my self-esteem. She won't do that, but I'll overhear her talking to friends saying, that's really a self-esteem thing. If you talk to yourself different, maybe that would make a difference. So she's like getting it. She won't tell me she's getting it.
but you see it.
It's seeping in. It's pretty cool.
That is cool. So
yeah.
When you finally started working sobriety, what work were you doing post sobriety, and then eventually how did you lead to wanting to give back in this way?
If you would have told me at the beginning of my recovery that I would be an author and a speaker and a life coach, I would have said, dude, you must be really high right now. There's no way. I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I knew I needed an education. So after San Diego State University kicked me out for the second time, I got sober. And then I thought, you know what, I want to go back to college. So I went to the assistant dean of the College of Sciences at San Diego State University. I'm a drug addict and an alcoholic, but here's my 60-day chip. And I'm really serious about my recovery, and I really would like another chance. And she looked at my file, and she looked at me, and she looked back, she looks up, she goes, I've been doing this a long time. I have never given anyone a third chance until today. I'm going to give you one more chance. I want you to take one class, get a C or better. And if you do that, I'm going to fully enroll you back in the university. And I was like, all right, I'll do it. And I did. And I got a C in the class. And I passed. She let me back in. And I went on to get my bachelor's degree and then went to get a master's degree. Because somewhere in there, I saw how my therapist was making a difference in my life. And I thought, let me be of service and make a difference in other people's lives. So I got my master's in counseling and started working in treatment centers, then went to private practice, then worked in an agency while I was building my practice. And a friend of my mom's was the vice principal of a high school and said, hey, we're doing this new Just Say No to Drugs program. Will you come in and talk to the students? And I was like, yeah, I'll talk to the students because I'm big ego back then, right? Look at me. I have 90 days sober and I'm getting my bachelor's degree and I was real hot shit. And I'm like, yeah, I'll go talk to the students. No problem. They said, okay, you have about 20 minutes. So I go into the program. I'm sitting in the front row with my mom and this woman and some of the people from the school. I didn't see who was coming into the room. And finally, they're okay, we'd like to introduce our speaker, Randy Havison. And I get up on stage and I look out. There were 1,000 high school students there. None of them wanted to be there. And I was like, holy shit, now what do I do? And I was like, okay, I'm just going to tell my story. And I just started talking. And I told my story, but I learned just telling my story, that's ego. But I wanted to tell my story in a way that I could put lessons in there that other people could relate to. And I still to this day could not tell you what I said that day, but I got a standing ovation from 1,000 high school students who didn't want to be there. And something in me clicked. I was like, okay, that was really cool. I want to do that again. Yeah. And that began my speaking career. And I started speaking high schools and colleges. And then someone at a college said, hey, I know someone in Northern California and they're hiring someone to run their drug and alcohol program. Can I tell them about you? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I was hired as a coordinator of alcohol and other drug programs at University of the Pacific, down the street from you guys.
Yes, sir. That's right.
And I worked there for a year and it was great, but the grant ended and they ended my position. They didn't want to pay for it. We don't have a drug problem here at our school. We don't need this program.
Stockton has no drug problem at all.
No, nothing. No,
I wasn't going to say anything, but
lily white clean, right? Yeah, there are no problems in Stockton. Ugh.
It's sarcasm for everybody listening who hasn't been to Stockton. There is very much so drug problems in Stockton.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, I wanted to pass legislation to make I-5 90 miles an hour through Stockton so you could get in and out of there as fast as possible.
You got my vote, buddy. You got my vote.
Oh, that place. I feel, some people are doing really well and thriving there, but I really struggled. That was a tough one. And I did a lot of community work too. And that was a rough spot.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So then I went on to other universities. I worked at James Madison University in Virginia, and I worked at Valdosta State University down in South Georgia. And I had a really good time doing that until my speaking career was taking off. And I thought, I think I can reach more people as a professional speaker than I can just working on one college campus. Mm-hmm. So that's what I did. My life has been such a dream. And it was hard work. I mean, I had to really work my ass off to get where I am today, but I look back and it was so worth it. And now I'm living in Orlando and I'm doing life coaching so I can work with people from all over the country. My book is selling well. I'm building a curriculum that's going to go out to schools. But here's another key to this thing. It is so important in building self-esteem and solidifying your recovery to learn how to have fun too. I remember early in my recovery, my therapist was like, dude, you have to learn how to have fun sober. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. And I had to learn how to have fun, right? Yeah. But now I'm living in Orlando and dude, I am having so much fun at Disney World. I mean, I go to the different parks and Disney Springs and I love it so much. I just got a part-time job at Disney.
Oh, no shit. What are you doing at Disney?
Dude, I'm working the monorails. I'm going to get to learn how to be a pilot of the monorails.
That's dope.
I'm a Disney fan. My mom's a nut, and I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So now that they have all that shit there, it's like,
Dude, you've got to come out to Orlando. And I know that we're online here, but you seem like a cool guy. You got to look me up when you come. Because now as a Disney cast member, I get free tickets and discounts on restaurants and hotels and merchandise and all kinds. I'll totally hook you up.
Hell yeah.
So,
be like, Mikey, I'm using that vacation. I'm going by myself.
There you go.
I'm going to go hang out with Randy.
Totally hook you up.
Yeah, I'll just hang out here, guys. You guys have a good time.
But again, this is the recovery thing. It's, you want to know how to knock doors down? Learn how to have fun with who you are. I talk about it all the time, learning how to become your own best friend rather than treating yourself like your own worst enemy. Mm-hmm. So I can make a mistake on something and I beat myself. Oh my God, you're so stupid. You're such an idiot. I can't believe you did that. Oh my God, how can you do? And I would just chew on myself. But if my best friend did the same thing, what would I say to my best friend? Usually it's like, hey man, it's okay. You messed up, but it's all right. You'll get through this. So I needed to learn how to treat myself like my own best friend rather than my own worst enemy. And you do that, you're going to knock down any door that gets in your way.
Hell yeah. So why don't you tell us a little, I'm fascinated now by what you do for fun, because like my thing, and it sounds like that child at heart is I started building Legos again, Star Wars, but that's kind of like my thing. So what's kind of the child in Randy other than Disneyland and parenting and all that stuff?
Disney World is probably most of it. Because it's like, what do I feel like doing today? I think I'll go over to Animal Kingdom. And even if I don't go on a ride, I just like being in that environment. I'm around happy people. And now that the pandemic, it's still out there, and please get vaccinated. That's something self-esteem you can do for yourself. I'll see a family and the dad is taking the picture of the family. I'm like, hey, do you want me to take that picture for you? And I'll say, I'm vaccinated, so it's okay. Can I take the picture for you so all of you can be in the picture together? They're like, oh my God, thank you. And I've had people say, this is the only picture we have on our entire vacation of all of us. And for me, that's like being of service. And being of service is like the key to me. I joined our local Rotary chapter. I knew nothing about Rotary until I got here, and people were telling me about it. And we have this brand new Rotary chapter, so I joined it. And we get to go do service work in the schools and go do Habitat for Humanity houses. And I love just being around people and going to Disney and going to movies and miniature golf and bowling and all those kind of things. So, and I can have fun just being by myself watching Marvel movies on TV. You
guys are two peas in a pod right now, man.
We're going to talk. Yeah. Okay. We'll talk later. But yeah, and enjoy the little things too. Even if I'm just sitting at home watching, Endgame again. It's fun for me, and I just enjoy my time. And with my daughter, whenever she's like, hey, now she's into like crystals and all kinds of stuff. It's like, hey, I found this new metaphysical shop. Can we go? It's like, absolutely, let's go.
Right.
So I love hanging out with her and going and checking out different restaurants, playing with my dog. Life is just fun. And I've also learned, the two things that are like the keys to me are to always have a sense of gratitude and to be of service wherever I can. That's why doing things like this, for me, this is part of my service. Mm-hmm. I love doing this kind of thing. If I can even help one person, then it was worth doing it.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what it is. And gratitude for everything that happens, because every day is a gift. If you look at it logically, like if you go to Mr. Spock and say, here's the chronology of what happened, he would say, it is completely illogical that you are alive with even one brain cell left. I'm like, I know. Right. So it's every day, just gratitude for what I have and what I'm able to do. So, I'm 61 now. The mind isn't as sharp as it used to be. The other day I was telling my wife, I wanted something out of the pantry, and I went over there and I opened the microwave, and I was like, what am I doing that for? Closed the microwave, went to the pantry, but it's like, holy shit, man. Okay, I'm getting a little older, but that's okay. And I treated myself like my best friend. If my best friend did that, I'd be like, dude, what was that? And that it wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe this. How could I do that? If I wanted, I don't beat myself up anymore. I just let myself be human. Mm-hmm. That notion of perfection is a tool of the ego.
Right.
Because self-esteem, there's no such thing as perfection. Right. With self-esteem, everything is imperfect and it's okay.
Yeah. Well, and that's an interesting thing about gratitude that I've started to, and even converse with others and recognize in my own life. And I don't recall if we've talked about it in this way, Mikey, but like, even have gratitude for the things that are shitty, because guess what? You don't know what they're going to be down the line. Much like I could relate to you when you're like, if you had told me back then, like, if you had told me 2 years ago that I'd be doing this now with this guy that we've been friends, I don't know, near a decade now, I'd be like, you're fucking full of shit. There is no way. And in that total change, it's like, wow, you know, thank you for the shitty stuff, because now it allows, like you said, it's one of those elements for us 12 steppers is give back, you know, helping even the one person. And, you know, when we get that message from someone, as I'm sure with you that you do, it's like, wow, I have a purpose, which plays into self-esteem, totally away from ego. I would think probably, yes?
Totally. And it's looking for the little thing, you know, especially like what we've been going through the past year and a half, you know, with COVID and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's like, you know, it's horrible that so many people have died and what it's done to our society. But my daughter was home for all of her 10th grade. We spent so much time together. It was awesome. And I learned so many things about myself and the world around me. When you take away some of the curtains, you can kind of see what's real and what's really important. You know, I couldn't wait until everyone was vaccinated in my family. You know, I live in Florida. My family's here in LA. I couldn't wait to come out here for a few days and spend time with them. So, and right now, you know, my dad just had his 85th birthday last week. And my mom, it's her, she doesn't want me to say, it's the 61st anniversary of her 22nd birthday. So I wanted to come out here and spend time with them and do that. So I was able to do it. And it's like, oh my God, my wife was like, but you have the podcast and you have these other things. I said, my other appointments I can change, and this, I'll just set up the laptop somewhere in the house and I'll be able to do it. It's not a big deal. So you just adjust and you learn how to make it work, whatever is happening, and look for the things to be grateful for. Even in a pandemic, there are things to be grateful for.
Oh, I agree. I was telling everybody during the pandemic, I was grateful for the fact of how much money I was saving, because we don't go anywhere. You just stay home. It's like so.
Exactly. Yeah.
Not to mention
and
I'm an
now
introvert.
Everyone's buying. I mean, just the economy, the way things are going, it's really cool. But, you know, just got to get more people vaccinated and we don't have to wear masks anymore. And we can go back to more of a, you know, whatever the new normal is. You know, I hear people say that too. I just wanted to go back to normal. It's like, what is normal?
Normal's just a setting on the dryer, man. That's what my mom always said.
Yes, exactly. And we're going to have a new normal. You know, again, normal is one of those ego things. I just want to be safe. I want to be in my comfort zone. But, you know, part of life is living outside that comfort zone and learning how to be comfortable there. You know, everything we do in recovery is outside of our comfort zone. But the more we learn how to make the uncomfortable comfortable, and we learn how to stretch ourselves and be in the world, when we have that solid sense of esteem, we get along so much better and things aren't as scary out there. But wanting normal, I don't like normal. I want to get out there and enjoy life. And you know, I told my mom, oh my God, I'm going to be working on the monorail. And she's like, are you crazy? Where did you come from? Because she likes her safety.
Sure.
But I just want to enjoy everything that life has to offer. And it's great. And usually I tell people I'm 61 years old and they're like, what? Because I'm having more fun than most people who are 45 that I know.
Yeah. I'm finally learning to have fun again, you know, and just to let more of that kid come out and just be kind of, fuck it, let's give it a shot. And will it kill you? It depends on what it is, but hell, it'll be a hell of a story if it does, you know? So
absolutely.
Whatever, you know?
Yep.
Hell.
Yeah. I remember when my daughter was young, one day she came to me and there were like these, I don't know, almost like calluses on my knees. And she looked at me, you know, she was probably 6 or 7. She's like, Daddy, what are those on my knees so much? Playing with her and, you know, doing dress up with her and letting her play with my hair and all that kind of stuff. that I was getting calluses on my knees because I was down there playing with her so much. Oh, what a gift. Yeah. What a beautiful gift.
Shit, I'm 33 and I'm like, this guy is having way much more fun. I need to get out there and go have fun too.
So go do it, bro. Yeah. Go do it. There's so much out there to explore and enjoy. Life is beautiful.
Yeah.
If we just stay out of our own way, life is beautiful and anything is possible.
Absolutely.
I agree 100%.
Well, Randy, before we get to the fun random questions and leave you with some the positive final words, there's something I really like that you do, and it's removing the words can't and should that I thought would be really valuable to share with people. Why did you come to those conclusions that and just feel that you had to express that out there?
You know, I would hear people use those words all the time. They say, oh, I can't get an A in this class. Oh, I can't lose these last 10 pounds. Oh, I can't ask her out for a date. And it's like, wait a minute, it's not can't. And can't is one of those words that turns a hurdle into a wall. Mm-hmm. It's not that I can't lose these last 10 pounds. Do I really want to put in the effort to do that? Because I can if I want to.
Right.
It's not that I can't. I can. Or I can't get an A in this class. Well, do your very best and go for tutoring and ask the teacher for help and do what you need to do. And then you just do your best. So can't is one of those words that turns a hurdle into a wall. You know, I can't quit drinking. How many times did we say that? Until we finally said, you know, it's not about can't. I'm going to. I'm going to stop. I'm going to make this work. And then we do. And should is another one of those obstacle words where, you know, I should exercise more. I should quit drinking. I should do this. I should do that. All we end up doing is shitting all over ourselves. Mm-hmm. And all that does, should is like a metal sledgehammer that we hit ourselves over the head with to say, I'm not good enough. Should means I'm not good enough. Because you should be better. You should be thinner. You should be smarter. You should do this and you should do that. It's not about should. You know, I should exercise more. Do I really want to? I should eat better. Do I want to eat better? Actually, yeah, I do. I would like to eat a few more vegetables during the day. Mm. So should is such a negative word that we throw on ourselves that when we get rid of it, life becomes lighter and it turns those walls into hurdles, which again are a lot easier to get over.
Yeah, it's a lot, you know, for us 12-steppers, you know, that it plays into the program, you know, and then making that, you know, those steps forward as a person in our life changes.
Yeah, absolutely. But let me talk about the number one obstacle word that I talk about all the time. And it's so important to get this word out of our vocabulary because it serves the ego and does not serve the self-esteem at all. And I watch this word being thrown all over the place. And if I could like snap my finger, if there was a genie that said, you have 3 wishes, what's your third one? It would be to get rid of this word. And that word is try.
Right.
What happens when we try to quit drinking?
It wouldn't be to wish for 1,000 more wishes, Randy?
No, you're not allowed to do that.
Okay,
no,
all right. No. But proceed, try, go ahead.
Yeah. So try, you know, when you think about it, I'll try to quit drinking. What happens when someone says, oh, I'll try to be there on time? You know they're going to be late.
Oh, yeah, that fucker's going to be late.
Yeah, so try is one of those things that keeps us from taking 100% of the responsibility for something that's going on. So to say I did my best is much better than try. Oh, I tried. No, like the person who won the silver medal. Oh, they tried to win gold. They attempted it, but they did their very best and still got silver. So they can either accept that as, wow, look what I did. I got a silver medal, or they can beat themselves up for not getting the gold.
We were actually
be a lot
just
happier
talking.
If they accept that.
We were just talking about that. We were saying try, and I was like, well, when MJ lost, he tried, but he just didn't succeed. But he did his best. Okay, so you cleared that up for us.
Yes.
Perfect.
I did my very best. And how many times do we do our very best with something and it doesn't work out? But as a result of that, something else happens that's even better than if that would have worked out.
Right. Okay.
So, you know, the whole try thing, it's got to go. You know, one of my favorite expressions, and you're going to appreciate this, in Empire Strikes Back, when Luke Skywalker goes to Yoda and he's being trained on being a Jedi, and Yoda says, use the Force, get the plane out of the water. and Luke uses the Force and it comes out a little bit and then it drops back down. Do it again. And he does it again and it comes back down. One more time. And it goes up and he said, do it again. And Luke says, but Yoda, I'm trying. And Yoda says, no, there is do or do not. There is no try. I thought, whoa. Wisdom from a Muppet.
Literally.
Right after you said,
just
whoa,
made so much sense.
Star Wars music came on.
Yeah, I know, right? But it's not about, trying is not what it's about. It's about doing the very best we can. Mm-hmm. And try is one of those things that keeps us from really putting all the effort into it and taking responsibility for what happens as a result.
Absolutely.
Gotcha.
Well, Mike, you got anything else for Randy before we jump to some random questions?
I don't. You cleared that up. The try thing is what I wanted to talk about, but how you put it, just all put it into perspective, it makes 100% sense. So I got you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
we were having a debate about it, where
I was like, there is very much so a thing of try. What do you mean? Like anybody who's in like NASCAR, you like NASCAR, if somebody gets second, they tried to get first, but they did their best.
They did their best.
And you cleared it up for us.
Cool.
So let's get into the rapid question.
All right. You're up first, Uncle Mikey.
Now, I could tell you're a very sweet, loving guy, glass half full. So this question is just fun. It's not relevant to anything.
Yeah.
If you had to fight either... Wait, what was it? How did it go? If you had to fight the chicken the size of a horse or 10 horses the size of chickens, which one would you pick?
10 horses.
Same. 10 chicken-sized horses.
Small.
Yeah,
just
but
kick the shit out of them.
they're strong as hell. Horses are strong. Even the size of a chicken, they're still yoked. But yeah, I'd pick
No, I'm good with that. But you have that big pecker thing coming at you.
Yeah.
Boom. No way, man. One hit and I'm gone.
Yeah,
but the horses, what are they going to do? Kick me in the shins? No. No.
Right?
Definitely 10 horses.
Yeah, you handle that, and the talons are big, man. Chicken's fucking mean.
Oh, yeah, no, chickens
like,
scare shit out of me, yeah.
All right. Let's see.
When you said random, you weren't shitting.
Oh, no.
No.
How many windows are in New York? No, I'm just kidding. That's not what it was.
A lot.
If a movie was made about your life, who would you want to play you, and what genre would it be?
Ooh. Oh, that would be awesome. Playing me, Robert Downey Jr. would be awesome.
Hell yeah.
Love him.
And what genre? I don't know. I'm really into kind of that sci-fi adventure, Conan the Barbarian, Game of Thrones type stuff. That would be awesome. If we could do that.
That'd be pretty cool to wrap your story into that,
I know, right? Oh, that would be really cool. Okay, now I'm going to go off on this.
So you mentioned Disney. My mother is a huge fan of Disney, and she loved all the evil queens and whatnot. She loves Maleficent. So my question to you is, who is your favorite Disney character?
Peter Pan.
Peter Pan.
Oh,
Steal from the rich, give to the
my
poor.
guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The forever child, the one who always sees wonder in everything that's going on, and still a little mischievous. But it's all about taking care of the Lost Boys. Mm-hmm. And I'm really big on taking care of the Lost Boys and the people out there who are really suffering and getting in their own way.
Yeah.
I love making a difference in their lives and just letting go and flying and find pixie dust wherever you can.
My friends used to call me Peter Pan, not for that reason, just because I used to wear skin-tight pants, had the long hair, leather jacket, so they're like, you look like Peter Pan with my long hair, but that's neither here nor there.
A grunge Peter Pan.
Yeah, right.
Shit. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
The easy one is flying. Mm-hmm. But it would be really cool to have a superpower. Those ones where they speak a word and it's like all that stuff comes out. Yeah. If I could do that and people would just be more loving and kind to each other.
I love it. That's a new one.
I see an argument on the street and I'm like, boom. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, can I buy you a cup of coffee? Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That would be an awesome superpower. Yeah,
we've got so many little things here that would make such good movies or TV series, I tell you.
Any good writers? Let's do it.
Do we?
I do.
Huh? Yeah.
I know some film writers.
Can I have a role in it too, guys?
Yeah,
Sweet.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Of course.
What was the last
It'll be
song?
all our friends and family in the background.
Oh, I love
When
it.
we watch the movie, we're like, oh my God, there's Steve.
I love it. I love it. What was the last song you listened to?
46 and 2 by Tool.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
Love that song. It's my favorite song. Before I do a lot of shows, I'll listen to songs that really impact me, and 46 and 2 is my favorite.
Nice.
You are badass, because I definitely wouldn't have nailed you for a Tool fan. My household, my
Really?
kids and I, all Tool fans. That was Christmas just before the pandemic. That's what we did. We went and saw Tool.
Have you ever seen them live? They
Yeah.
are amazing live.
Yeah, I took my kids for Christmas. What's that? 2-3 years ago. That was our
Very cool.
our trip. Yeah, that's badass.
Nice.
Let's see. Last one for you. If you were stuck on a deserted island, what one movie and one music album would you take with you?
Endgame is the movie. Absolutely. And the album would probably be, either Physical Graffiti
Oh,
or Fear Inoculum by Tool.
yeah, that is a freaking great album.
Yeah. That would be a tough choice.
Oh God, yeah. The music and movie. This one would be very tough for me to be asked. Mike, you got one more before we leave Randy with the closing words?
Yeah, we could do another one. What advice would you give to your previous boss if you could?
Let it fly.
I was in a situation a couple years ago where I went to go work for a friend of mine at a university. I was living in Southern California at the time. And he was like, hey, we have an opening at the university. I'm like, oh my God, can I apply for it? That would be so much fun. And I went to work for him, and he turned out to be a total dick. I mean, he was horrible. Again, on the outside, he made everything look okay. But on the inside, he was so insecure and such a horrible manager.
Right.
That my advice to him would be quit. Do everybody around you a favor and just quit.
I love it.
And Randy, this has been a real pleasure and an honor speaking with you. We like to leave the guests with the last words of encouragement. Anyone that's struggling, not just with obviously addiction, mental health, and self-esteem being such a huge part of that.
It's okay to ask for help. And most of it is learning how to get out of your own way. That the tools are going to be there, the resources are going to be there to get you the help you need and the support you need if you just get out of your own way. And learn how to become your own best friend rather than treating yourself like your own worst enemy.
Thank you again, Randy Havison. What a good dude.
You know, speaking of these random questions, and yes, he is a good dude, I don't think anybody would fight a horse-sized chicken.
If you were
I
smart,
think that's a stupid question.
you would not fight a horse-sized chicken.
Yeah, it's a stupid question, but picture, 10 or 20 chicken-sized horses. That's still terrifying.
Sure.
But a horse-sized chicken, dude, one peck and you're done.
That thing would fuck you up.
I got to come up with different questions. Stay tuned, guys. We'll get different ones for you.
I really enjoyed that. That's this conversation with Randy. That's the fun thing about, we really meet these people when the audience does too. I never would have thought a guy that, much like myself, sits and enjoys the Marvel movies, Disney, Star Wars, all that stuff. So,
I'll just wait here when you guys go to Disneyland. Just send me a postcard.
Yeah. We talked a little bit
Or
afterwards.
I'm sorry, Disney World.
Disney World, yeah, because he lives in Orlando. Even afterwards, hey, I got room. You and your kids can come and stay, and we'll hit up the parks. And what a great guy.
I'll just go fuck myself.
Again, we thank you guys for listening to the Knocking Doors Down podcast. Please share with a friend. That's the best way that we grow. If you find these engaging, helpful to yourself, share it with a friend. That helps us continue to build this audience, and we're so appreciative of it. Of course, on the Apple Podcast app, where you can leave us a 5-star rating, a review, helps us climb up those charts. It's also available on the iHeart app, Spotify, Google Podcast. We are wherever you get them, and of course, the preferred way that Mikey enjoys them, because he likes the video, on our YouTube channel, and that link, of course, in our bio or at kddpodcast.com. Speaking of inspiration, don't forget to pick up your copy of Carlos Vieira's autobiography, Knocking Doors Down. 100% of the proceeds go to the Carlos Vieira Foundation. Our partners there doing amazing work with the Race to End the Stigma program that surrounds mental health, the Race for Autism, helping families who have children with autism with different kinds of scholarship funding for care, education, and so much more. And of course, Gloves Not Drugs, a program keeping kids off the streets, involved in activities away from gangs and drugs. And again, all those proceeds from the Knocking Doors Down autobiography go to the Carlos Vieira Foundation. You can get that by clicking that link or going to kddmediacompany.com. Anything else, Uncle Mikey?
No, I'm going home.
On that note, keep knocking doors down.
Strengthening communities, providing resources, building awareness, empowering youth in need to overcome adversity and achieve success. This is what the Carlos Vieira Foundation is all about. Through our campaigns, the Race for Autism, Race to End the Stigma, and Race to Be Drug-Free, we're able to help so many in need. Our goal is to provide support to families and children and give these families opportunities that might not normally arise. Learn more and find out how you can get involved. Visit carlosvierafoundation.org today.
This podcast contains the views and opinions of the Knocking Doors Down hosts and their guests to the show. The content here should not be taken as medical advice. The content here is for informational purposes only, and because each person is sharing their unique perspective, please consult your healthcare professional for any medical questions. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast and website are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate, we welcome any comments, suggestions, or correction of errors. Privacy is of the utmost importance to us. For those wishing anonymity, people, places, and scenarios mentioned in the podcast have been changed to protect confidentiality at the request of certain guests. This website or podcast should not be used in any legal capacity whatsoever, including but not limited to establishing standard of care in a legal sense or as a basis for expert witness testimony. No guarantee is given regarding the accuracy of any statements or opinions made on the podcast or website. In no way does listening, reading, emailing, or interacting on social media with our content establish a doctor-patient relationship. If you find any errors in any of the content of this podcast or blogs, please send a message through the contact page. This podcast is owned by KDD Media Company.